Hey, this is Carrie with Canary Quilt, and it's week 41 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along. After this week, we only have 2 more weeks of doing 4 center blocks and a border block. And then it's border blocks and corner blocks. I think I doubled up on the border blocks. I'll have to look ahead, but the progress is insane. It's absolutely insane. It just blows my mind. If you're new here, I am doing the Dear Jane Quilt Along utilizing EQ8 and the Dear Jane add-on for EQ8. I will be going through I'll be going through the blocks on EQ8 that I'm going to be working on this week, and I'll show you any modifications I make to those blocks and which ones I'm using. So you can hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to start on this journey with us. It is not too late. I have a playlist of Dear Jane in my YouTube channel, and you can start from the beginning. Also, you can share your blocks on social media with the hashtag Dear Jane QAL and tag Canary Quilts, and I will share them out on my social media also. So I like to start with the population of my color quilt, which is a great feature that the Dear Jane add-on in EQ8 does. You can take a look at what it's kind of going to look like in colors. So this week we are doing C2 Streak of Lightning. There's our C2 row filled in. Next one is E7 Breadbasket. And then we have F12 Starburst. And K1 Crooked Creek. And there's our K row filled in. And then our last block is the left side to Barb's Diamonds. And I need to rotate. All right, those are the blocks we're going to be working on this week. I'm going to go over to my block table and show you if I'm going to make any modifications and what it looks like. All right, first block is C2 Streak of Lightning Variation 1. And the reason I chose Variation 1 is the direction of this seam and this seam, so that I can make sure we don't have Y seams right here in these corners. And I'm going to show you how I do that. You don't have to do it this way, but this is how I'm going to do it to make it easier for me, because I'm not real good at them. And these are small blocks. So we do have 2 applique triangles right here on each side. I'm going to turn those off. So we have these like mitered corners here. I am just going to draw a line right through the middle and cut it in half. So we can put 2 halves together instead of trying to piece these weird seams in. So our foundation is, we've got 3 rows in the center. All our outer pieces are individual sections, but the way we put them on is for this bottom half, we'll put on this short side first, and then we'll put the long side on, and we'll have half the block done. So ignore these are the applique. So we just need to print out our foundation paper piece, move your pieces around. That's interesting that they gave us the applique pieces. I have to say that's the first time I've seen that. So anyway, that's what the foundation paper piece looks like. If your applique pieces don't come out on that, then you can go over to templates and print them out there. And we need the H right here. That's the one we need. You can delete the rest of them and print your templates. So that's interesting. That was new to me. So next block is E7, and wow, do we have some Y seams here? We would have Y seams in all 4 of these corners and these corners down here. So let me show you what I'm going to do to make sure I don't have Y seams. I am going to draw. Let me go back to this. So let me show you what I want to do. I want to have 4 corners inside of here. So here's one corner, and then I'll have one here, and down here we'll have two. So that's what I'm going to do when I draw out my lines. So I want to draw a line here. I'll draw the two lines in here for now, and then just draw lines in each of these outer triangles. All right, so I finished drawing these lines in. So to make sure the other thing we want to do here is draw lines right here, and we have these two here. And that ensures that we have these 4 complete blocks. So if we go to our printout, you can see we have these 2 sections make up this block, and the same over here and down here. And then we just have to put those 4 corners together. All right. It's going to be a lot of little pieces, but they're going to be a lot of the same pieces. So there we go. That is E7 modified for no Y seams. Next block is F12 Starburst. This looks like I would need to do some modifying, but guess what? We don't. We have 4 sections that are exactly the same. So this is not going to be hard at all. Yeah, looking forward to this one. And this is what it looks like when we print it out. These 4 sections are exactly the same. All right. Yay for an easy one. So this block doesn't actually need to be modified, but I did because if you look at this row right here, it's got 1 square and a long strip. This row is exactly the same, except it has that seam. So I'm going to take that seam out. I don't think it needs to be there. So I'm going to just delete that seam. Doesn't change the look of it. It makes the top and bottom row mirror images of it. These 2 rows, the one I just modified and this one right here, are mirror images, and then we have the center row. So you don't need to modify it, but that is how I'm modifying it. So we have the foundation paper pieces where it will take the top outer border and put it onto the top row, and then because the bottom row is a little bit longer than that center section, it puts these 2 pieces, these 2 squares together, and then these 2 sections of the row, I guess. Anyway, that's just a modification I'm making. You don't have to make it. I just didn't see the necessity of that seam. All right, let's take a look at that real quick. This is what it looks like when you print it out. So again, I don't think this is going to be hard to do. I think after 41 weeks, a lot of these aren't too hard anymore. It's just trying for me to eliminate those pesky Y seams. The last block is LS2 Barb's Diamond, and it does, well, I turned it off, that's why. There is a little applique diamond up here at the top. Otherwise, if you take a look at the foundation, it's not that hard. You have these 2, the green and the red down here are mirror images. We have the center here, and then a little mirror image to the left of that, and the top and the bottom. So it's not that many sections. You think EQ8 would be able to separate these a little better, don't you? Anyway, just a little pet peeve of mine. So there's the foundation paper piece. Interesting, it didn't print out the applique. So you would need to go to your templates and print out the V right here. There's so many. This applique is, or this piece is the applique piece we need for the top. All right, there you go. That is what we're doing this week. Few modifications. Let me know if you're making the same modifications. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you're new here, and let's get started on our blocks. All right, let's get started on week 41 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along. We are starting off with block C2, Streak of Lightning. I'm using variation 2, and I modified variation 2 so there's no Y seams. It's pretty simple. Once it's together, I can show you how I did that, but if you also want to see how I did it, you can go back to the EQ8 portion where I modified it if you don't watch that part of it. Anyway, here's my cut pieces. These big white pieces are for the outside. The white and my blue right here are for the inside, and then we do have an applique on this. So I've got my two, you can see the two diamonds on the outside are the applique. So I transferred my applique onto my fusible webbing, and I used the inside line to do that. All right, I think I'll just put together one of these triangular shaped pieces. These are just 3 in a row, and then we can put the whole block together. There's the pieces I have finished. They are pretty simple to put together, and this is the piece I'm going to demonstrate. And then I attached my fabric to my outside singular pieces. All right, there's the piece we're going to work on. We're starting in the corner, going up to the white and back to the blue here. So when I turn it over, I've drawn out my seams. Starting here with 1 is a blue. So I'm going to put it over top of my 1/4 of an inch over 2. And then I'm going to put my white up here. It's plenty over this one, and then my seam allowance is right here, so I've got room there. So I am going to sew, get that straightened up, right here, and I'm going to lock stitch at these 2 intersections. There's the first 2 pieces. We can trim for our 3rd piece. Here's my blue. It's plenty big for the little triangle we have here, so I'm going to center it. I'm going to sew on the line right here, lock stitching at these 2 pieces, get everything trimmed up, and we'll get it laid out. Here's my pieces trimmed up. I have them laid out. So I have sections F and E right here, and A and B right here. So we need to put these 2 together along that seam, match up notches. Looks like the points just line up with the edge right there. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one down here, line it up, sew along here, and I think I will iron my seams open. Here's my 2 halves put together, and this is the seam I made in EQ8 so that we could make 2 halves like this. We're going to put our 2 halves together with our outside pieces, and then we'll put it together along this entire diagonal line. So this is the shorter piece. We want to put the shorter piece on first, and let's see how it lines up. And it looks like the points of the notches of my bottom piece here are on my edges. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on. I'm going to iron towards my outside piece, and I'm going to put this short piece on here too. Okay, here's my 2 short ends. Now we can put the long side on over here, and the points on the notches on that bottom piece line up with the edge of our piece up here. So I'm going to get this sewn on, this one, and iron towards that outer piece. There's my pieces. Now all we have to do is put the 2 halves together. So I'm going to line up these 2 seams right here. And it perfectly lines up on both ends. Notches line up. I'm going to sew this and iron this open, and then we'll get our applique on. There we go, there's our block. So now we want to put our appliques on, and I am going to just do the wider points here. Line them up on the seam there, and then fuse them down. C2, Streak of Lightning Variation 2 with no Y seams. Long title for a beautiful block. All right, next block is E7 Breadbasket, and I also modified this one for no Y seams. These triangles right here on the outside, these 4, I put a seam in, and then I put a seam in the middle square so that I would end up with 4 squares in each corner. And if you want to see more about that, you can go back to my EQ8 in the beginning if you didn't watch it. All right, so I have my cut pieces here, and I forgot to say it in the last block, but I do have my cut pieces available on my website if you would like to use them. That link is in the description down below. These long pieces, looks like I need to cut 2 more, are for the outside. These larger rectangles are in here. There's 4 of them. Yep, right there. These small rectangles are all these little lines in the middle, and the triangles are the corners. All of these squares are for my brown pieces in here. All right, I need to get 2 more of these cut, and then I'm just going to put together one of these pieces with this larger white strip on it, and then the rest will be the same. All right, took me a little bit of time, but I got all my little pieces put together. So these white pieces right here just fit. So if you use the cut pieces I provide on my website, these will be bigger. So I've got all of these done. They aren't hard to do. It's just a lot of them. And then I've got my outside fabrics tacked down to my outside pieces. All right. So to get started on this piece, we're going to start with one of the large, in my case, brown pieces, and then we're going to fill in the corner, add the center piece, and then do the same thing down here, and then add this long white piece. I've drawn it out on the back. Whoops, I didn't draw that seam. These are all the seams drawn out in the order in which we're putting together our pieces. So I'm going to start with number 1. And what we have to do is we have to trim this. So I'm just going to get, it's plenty big. This piece I made plenty big. I'm just going to get this tacked down so that I can trim it. I just tacked it down over here in the seam allowance. I am going to now trim for my first piece. And that's going to be one of these triangles. So I need to get out, seam allowance is right there. So I'm just going to center my piece here, line my points up, and then sew on the line right here. And I always lock stitch at these intersections. All right, there's my first 2 pieces. You can see that my piece is so close. That's why I made yours bigger. Now we can put on the center strip. And make sure we've got our seam allowance covered. We're 1/4 of an inch past that seam, so I'm going to sew on the line right here and lock stitch over here. There we go, 3rd piece is on. So now we're just going to do the other corner. And trim it up, add our brown piece, which is plenty big, and sew on the line between B3 and B4, lock stitching at these points. Whoops, I went ahead and put this on without showing you. So here's our 4th, 1, 2, 3, 4th piece. I trimmed it up. We'll put our other triangle on, and then we'll sew right here, and I lock stitch at these 2 points. There we go. Last piece is our long rectangle. You can get that trimmed up. We'll put this on. So once I get this sewn on, I will get everything trimmed up. That's going to take a little bit of time, and see how these pieces go together. I got my pieces trimmed up, and we need to make 4 identical corners inside our block. So I've got my 4 pieces with this extra white strip here lined up like this, and then I've got the other 4 so that we make like a square in the middle here with this plus sign. So I'm going to put these 4 together. I'm going to iron towards the white strip in the middle to match this seam over here, and then we can lay out our corners. Here's my 4 corners. All we have to do is put them together in 2 rows, and then put the 2 rows together. Then we have our outside pieces. So we have 1 short piece that will go on first, Then we have 2 medium pieces that will go on opposite ends next to the short piece, and then the long piece will go on last. So I know that I'll be ironing these out towards the outer pieces. I will probably try to iron all my seams in here open. And I will let you know how that goes. There we go, E7 Breadbasket, modified for no Y seams. I did iron these seams open, and it worked out pretty good. Phew, I like doing it. It took some time, but I like doing that block. I think it turned out pretty cool. Next block is F12 Starburst. This is what it's going to look like. And I don't know, for some reason when I first just looked at this block, I thought, oh, we're going to have to modify that. There's going to be Y seams. There is not. This is the actual block. It's looks like 4 identical sections. So I think it's going to be pretty easy to put together. I have my cut pieces, which you can find on my website if you want to use my cut pieces. The link is down below in the description. These are the 2 dark pieces in here, and then these are the 3 white pieces or background pieces that I have. So let me get set up. I'm probably going to do all 4 at the same time, but I'll just show you one, and we'll get the block done. Here's my pieces. I'm ready to start assembling it. So all of these pieces start with number 1 here and then move to number 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've tracked that out on the back here with the seams and the numbers. So number 1 is going to be my orange piece. I'm going to put it over, 1/4 of an inch over number 2, and my seam allowance is right there. So I've got plenty of room. And then the smallest rectangle is number 2. It's plenty big. It's off the paper and it's way past this seam right there. So on all 4 of these, I am going to sew right here, and I'm going to lock stitch there and there. There's my first 2 pieces, and I did it on all 4 of my sections. So now we can trim up for piece number 3. And that's going to be the next size rectangle. I'm just going to line it up over here with my orange. It's well past this point where it needs to go, and here's my seam allowance. Well, it's off the paper, so obviously it's past my seam allowance. Now I'm going to sew right here on 3, lock stitch at that point and that point. Got my 3rd piece on all 4 sections. Now I'm going to get it trimmed up and get my 4th piece on, which is going to be this big orange piece in my case. And I'm just going to stretch it down past this seam allowance and this seam allowance. And then I can sew right here, lock stitching at the 2 points on the end. There we go. We are on to our last piece. So that's pretty easy. You can do them all 4 sections at the same time because they're identical. And then once we get done with these, putting these together, we can lay our block out. Last pieces go on here, and again, they're plenty big. They're both off my paper. So I'm just going to sew here, lock stitching at each point, and then get everything trimmed up. There's my pieces laid out. I just kind of laid them out so that my points here came to the middle. You could put these 2 together, or you could put these 2 together. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to put them together like this. I'm going to line up that point. So along this line, I think I'll iron it open, and I'll do the same for this side. There's my 2 halves. I can put these together. I'm going to match up that center seam. And then I'm going to sew these together, and I think I'll iron this one open also. There we go. What a beautiful block. I really like it. And it wasn't hard to put together. So that's F12 Starburst. Our next block is K1 Crooked Creek. I made a modification to this, but you didn't have to. What I put up here is mine says 1 line removed. So there was a seam in there right here, and I didn't see a reason for that seam. This one didn't have a seam up there. So I took that seam out. It was the same colors and everything, so I just took that seam out. So that's what I'm working with. If you want to see what I did, you can go back to the EQ8 version and just see how I took that out. So my cut pieces, which are available on my website, and the link is below in the description of this video. These squares, the white and the dark, are obvious in here. So are the triangles. These longer dark rectangles are right here, and then these longer white triangles are all on the outside. So I think I'll do this piece right here, and it will translate to all the other pieces in this block. Here's the pieces I have finished. They weren't that hard to put together. And then my outer pieces, I attached my fabric to my paper pieces. All right, so for this piece, ignore this line. We're going to start in the middle. We're going to move over to this one, to this triangle. Now you could either go to this triangle and put it on, or you can follow theirs and go to C3 and then come back to the triangle and work over. I will hopefully try to follow the numbers. Sometimes I forget and just do it the way I want to do it. But anyway, here we are on the back. I've drawn them out. We're going to start with a blue square. And that's my seam allowance. And then our white triangle needs to be oriented like that. Whoops. Like this. So I'm going to turn it over, line it up with my blue, make sure it's 1/4 of an inch over this seam right here. And then I'm going to sew right here with a lock stitch there and a lock stitch down here. There's my first two pieces. So come over here to this piece, number 3. We can get it trimmed up. And this is going to be our white square. So let's get a white square. I'm going to line that up just with my blue square. So on this line, lock stitching at this point and down here at this point. Okay, there's my first 3 pieces. Now we'll come back here to our blue triangle and we can get that trimmed up. And we want it oriented like that, so we'll just flip it over. I'm going to line up my points here. So on the line right here, lock stitching at both points. The last one in the row is our last white square. And I'm just going to line that up again with my blue down here. And sew on the line, lock stitching there. We can sew out here, lock stitch there too, if you want to. Last thing to do is put on our big blue, my blue strip at the top. All right, so I'm going to get this sewn on, and I'm going to have everything trimmed up, and then we'll see how this block gets laid out. Here's my pieces trimmed up and laid out. We have the one with the white strip goes up here, and then this one with the long blue strip goes right here. And then there's only one like this, that's in the middle, and then these two get put together like this down here. So it's going to be the mirror image of these two. So the first thing I want to do is put these together, and then I'm just going to put my rows together. And I think I will probably iron everything open. There's my center put together, and I did iron everything open. So we've already added our short piece up here. It was part of our foundation paper piecing. So we have 2 medium pieces. This one fits here, and you sew that one on first, and then you can sew this other medium piece on the bottom, and then the long one goes on the other edge. And I'm going to iron these out towards these outer sections. K1 Crooked Creek. Mine's modified. I took out one seam right here that I didn't feel needed to be there, but you don't have to do that. So that turned out really pretty. Last block is left side 2, Barb's diamond. This is what we're gonna be finishing out with on this block. This is what the sections look like. And this is what my pieces are. I have a cheat sheet on my website that I use for my cut pieces that I have a link in the description down below if you want to use mine. So I'm going to use my cheat sheet to figure out where these pieces go instead of telling you right now where they go, because I'm going to have to use my cheat sheet. And then we also have an applique at the top of this. This top diamond is an applique. I've printed that out and I've traced it on the inside line here. I'm thinking if we do this one right here, it will translate to the rest of them. These are pretty easy, and I think these are pretty much, this one's pretty much set up kind of the same as these. If I run into any issues starting these, I will let you know before I start doing that one. All right, I'm going to start this one. I don't see any reason that we can't change this to our first and this to our second. I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to tack it down so that now I can trim for this piece. The second piece. I think it's a lot easier than trying to, I think it's easier to put a smaller piece on than it is to try to flip a longer piece. So now I can sew my second piece on. So that's how I'm doing the A section. So I just did section C, and the first piece is this blue triangle. Section B isn't like that, but it can be. So I'm switching this to be the first piece and this one to be the second piece, just like that one. I'm not seeing any reason that we need to do it the way they've numbered it. I got all my pieces done here. I showed you how I changed that one. And then there's these two where I showed you I changed this, the order of the pieces. That one is going to be just like this one. And then I added my fabric to this piece here, the top. So on this piece, we're going to be working across here, 1, 2, 3, bring 4 down here and 5 over there. I have laid it out over here. So I'm going to start with a white rectangle for my number 1. And seam allowance is out here. So I'm going to lay my piece 1/4 of an inch over 1 and 2. Plenty of room, or plenty of fabric, and same here. Line it up, and I'm going to sew on between 1 and 2, lock stitching at both points there. All right, first 2 pieces are on. Our third piece is this white piece over here. We can get trimmed up. That is going to be this white rectangle. You can see my seam allowances there and here. So pull it down, and my points are past my seam allowances. So we can sew between 2 and 3, lock stitching there, and then we can come out here. There's our third piece. Fourth piece is down here. Let's get trimmed up for that. And now this is what this big square is, and it's because it's at such a weird angle. We've got to get all the way out to here and over here. So this corner is past my point, which is right there, and it's past this seam allowance. So now we can lock stitch there and sew right out to there. First 4 pieces are on. I went ahead and trimmed for my 6th piece, which is this huge piece. I want to make sure this is what, yes, that is going to fit. Okay, so the longer side goes right here. Here's my seam allowance, and then here's my other seam allowance. So you can see we have plenty to work with. All right, so I'm gonna sew along here, get everything trimmed up, and we'll put it together. Here's the layout. This big piece that I just showed you goes right here in the middle, and then we're just gonna mirror these two pieces, and then we're gonna make it symmetrical up here with this piece. So we got to put these two pieces on, or together, and let's see. Okay, the points of the notches land right here on each side. I'm going to sew this on. I'm going to iron towards this big diamond right here because that's how it is over on this side. Now we can add these two pieces on, and it doesn't look like it matters which one you put on first. Notches line up wonderfully, so I'm going to continue to, I think I'll continue to iron towards this big diamond in the middle. There we go. These two pieces are on, and I did iron towards this blue diamond, so all my seams are ironed towards the blue diamond. So I'll add on my bottom piece, and the points of this big piece we just put together, these points land at the edge of my bottom piece. So I'm going to get that sewn on. I'm going to iron towards the bottom. All right, bottom piece is on. Top piece. It's kind of centered. It looks like we have the points are make little tails on each side. So I'm going to get this ironed towards the top piece, and then we'll put our applique on. There's my top piece, and if you look at the block, this is just kind of floating. So I'm going to line up my bottom point with this point, this big diamond, and just kind of lay it in there. There we go. LS2, left side 2, Barb's diamond. And that really wasn't that hard to put together. Yeah, that's a really pretty block. The blue that I used was a fat quarter I bought at a quilt show in Hastings, Michigan, and there was a lady in the guild there that dyed her own fat quarters. And I know that's what that fabric is, and it's really pretty. We finished week 41. Let me know how it went for you. Let me know if you made any of the same modifications I did, or if you made different modifications. Or if you just went ahead and did some Y seams, because I commend you. Those are hard in little blocks like this. So my blocks turned out beautiful. I've taken my pictures. I'm ready to populate my photo quilt, which is another fun thing that the Dear Jane EQ8 add-on gives you. So I am ready to put them in, and look at this. We hardly have any blank spaces in here. All right, C2 Streak of Lightning, and that is our C row. E7 Breadbasket. F12 Starburst. K1 Crooked Creek. And then LS2 Barb's Diamond. I can't wait to see what this looks like compared to my actual quilt. It's amazing. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of you. It does not matter if you're going at the same pace I am or not. Any pace is wonderful, and you will have a beautiful quilt in the end. All right. Thank you so much for following along. I really do appreciate you. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. You'll get notified of my Dear Jane content and all the other fun stuff we have here. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!